Good morning. Thank you for joining SmartXPD today for a fireside chat with author Carol Clupny. I'm Patrick LoSasso, president of SmartXPD and coordinator of our Parkinson's Life discussion group. This is a place where we come together to unite, strengthen, and share. If you enjoy SmartXPD, please consider making a contribution. You can find a button to do so on the YouTube channel banner, or there are payment options in the notification emails that we send out. We're recording today's presentation, so if you don't want to be seen, please turn off your video and make sure your microphone is muted so we have a nice quiet room, but make sure you know how to unmute your device, as we'll be having an opportunity for Q&A at the end. You can also enter your questions into the chat as we go, and I'll read them at the appropriate time. Today, we're so fortunate to have our special guest, Carol Clupny, author of the novel, The Ribbon of Road Ahead, One Woman's Remarkable Journey with Parkinson's Disease. Carol grew up riding horses, climbing trees, and tubing down the creek. The fish would not stay off her line, nor the tales from her lips, as she became a fun-loving, storytelling adult. It came as a blow when at age 50, she was diagnosed with Parkinson's disease. Carol eventually decided to get busy, leading to a 1,000-mile pilgrimage along the trails on the Camino de Santiago in France and Spain. A dusty bike discovered in the garage resulted in 4 rides on the Des Moines Register's annual Great Bike Ride across Iowa. She lived through these adventures to publish her book, The Ribbon of Road Ahead. Please give a warm welcome to Carol Clupny. Welcome, Carol.
Thank you for that nice introduction.
So, Carol, I'm going to hand it over to you. Welcome.
Hi, I'm going to share my screen here. There we go. Welcome to Eastern Oregon. This is my home. I decided to show you some pictures so you could get to know me and maybe have a little bit of the insider information on who Carol Clupny is, and you can share it with your friends and sell me more books. I designed this house. It was built on some property that we own in Hermiston, Oregon. And it's got all nice wide doorways. It's a wide open floor plan. And I've got a great roll-in bathroom for future needs. So we plan to live here forever. My friend said, if you don't have a picture of it, it didn't happen. So you're gonna see a lot of pictures now. This is my family, although it's about 10 years old. So my husband, Charlie, my son, Lauren, when he graduated from the University of Oregon, myself, and my son, Luke. Patrick mentioned that I loved horses growing up. This is a picture of my first horse, running barrels. And these are my last horses. One of them is still living. The other one passed away just recently. And I had these horses since they were babies. Before I was diagnosed, I'd like to do a lot of climbing and hiking and backpacking and such. And these are 2 of my friends that I took up to the top of Mount Adams. And the gal with the ice axe was ready to kill me. She didn't enjoy that hike very much, but she did make it to the summit. And when you go up, you have to come down. And this is me coming down on Mount St. Helens. It's called glissading. And that was really one of the only reasons I like to climb, so glissade down. What is my favorite exercise? Shooting baskets. And right now, my calf muscles are so tight and my ankles are so tight, I can't get any spring off my foot. So you'll see later what I'm doing in place of using a regulation size basket. After I was diagnosed, I was sitting in my living room, just kind of staring out the window, thinking, what the heck is going on with my life? And I got kind of angry with myself because I'd been sitting around. So I boosted myself out of my chair and went out the front door, and I walked about 100 yards to where our mailbox was. Hey, that's pretty good. I could walk 100 yards. So I went back to the house and was exhausted. The next day, got myself out of that recliner, went out the door, got to the mailbox, crossed the street, made it back without getting hit by any cars, and got back in the house, back into my lounge chair there. So that went on, and I got to the corner, and I got to the park, and I got to the post office. And the next summer, I found myself in Spain, walking on the Caminos de Santiago. I did 4 walks and they totaled 1,000 miles. And let's see, the first walk we took was with our family. We started in Saint Jean Pied de Port, and we walked from there to Santiago de Compostela. And the walk that was really great was going from Le Puy to the coast of Spain. Now, my husband did that in 2018, and I walked the first part with him so that I'd covered all this whole length over 4 visits. Some of the trails are pretty rough. We wore backpacks, carried mostly our clothing, not too much bedding, no camping supplies because we stayed in dormitory type albergues. Here I am in France. Always had something to eat. There's half-eaten sandwich stuffed in my backpack. You imagine that. And again, walking in France. Beautiful countryside, great exercise, fresh air. This is my kind of like kick butt picture, because I came down this groove and it's been worn down by people hiking down it in the mud. And I just felt so good, so accomplished that I'd made it down this hill really well. So about the same time I started doing this walking, I heard that bicycling helped mitigate the symptoms of Parkinson's. So I wanted to investigate into that a little bit. And I got digging around in the garage and I found my old kind of a cross touring bike. Maybe a city bike would be a better name for it. And I tried to get on it and it was just like heavy to maneuver around. I didn't remember bicycle riding being that hard. So I dug around some further and I found my son's Bianchi road bike. He had been using it for triathlons and I got on it and by golly, that was really cool. I could go fast. It just brought me a whole bunch of freedom. But I knew I wasn't riding it properly. So I wanted to find somebody to help me learn to ride it. So I went to Google and I Googled in woman in Pacific Northwest with Parkinson's who rides a road bike. And up comes Nan Little. And Nan Little was integral in the Pedaling for Parkinson's program. And she convinced me to go on this ragbri ride across Iowa. Boy, she told me how, you have to train and everything. And my husband went with me and we trained both on these single road bikes and on a tandem bike. There we are on our tandem. I had no idea what I was getting into when I went to this ragbri ride and just ride across Iowa. That's really fun. But oh my goodness. Iowa is not flat. It's got a lot of hills. And coming down this hill, I hit a bump and my water bottles went flying and probably hit somebody else. It's just a great ride, but with lots of things to pay attention to. So we did this ride for 4 years and I don't know why we came back to the heat, the hills, and the humidity of Iowa to do this, but it was sure fun. And we made lots of money to help put stationary bikes in YMCA's. Here we are in the Mississippi River. Part of ragbri is you start on the west side of the state and with your rear tire in the Missouri River, and you ride across the state in 7 days and camping out each night and end up on the other side of the state. And every year the route is different. So you get different wind patterns and different hill patterns, and it's just crazy fun. So as time progressed, I wasn't riding those skinny tired road bikes, and my husband is not confident with me on the tandem right now. And so I went out and bought myself a cat trike. I'd only been on one once and it was during the pandemic. So it came in a big truck, in a big box. It was all assembled for me and we just had to figure out how to do some adjustments. And I love this thing. It is so fun. I feel like a kid out riding in it. It just really, the fresh air against my face and the speed that I can get up with it, it's a blast. My problem is there's no one who lives around here who has a cat trike. So, or any kind of recumbent tricycle. So I have to ride along with regular people, but regular riders. So after my rag ride experiences and my Camino experiences, well, I continued on walking on the Camino, but about 8 years into my surgery, into my diagnosis, my doctor said, you know, you're in a really good time for DBS, deep brain surgery. It's just brain surgery, said no one ever. DBS has seemed to be the thing that people are doing now for their Parkinson's symptoms. And I did really well with it. It's been 7 years now since I had it, and my hair's all grown long again. So here's another picture. My husband said I looked like a baseball. You can see why. I went in to the hospital in the morning. Had the surgery later in the morning. They kept me overnight. And by the next morning I didn't drive. My husband and my son drove me home 180 miles to Hermiston from Portland. I got really bored, and that weekend I went down to a local wine and coffee shop, and I played in a bluegrass jam. And then on the Monday morning, we went back to Portland, and I had the neurostimulator implanted in my chest right here. So I have a Medtronics, and I have now the rechargeable. When I first got it, I had the kind that you just let it go out, let it burn its battery out, and I had that for about 2.5 years. They replaced it 2.5 more years. They replaced it, and then they decided that I was having surgery too often. So after DBS, I could sleep anywhere. I had missed a lot of sleep, I think, in my life because of my Parkinson's, and you'll be amazed where I could sleep. I slept in this meadow on the Camino de Santiago. A paper plate for a pillow on the rag ride. And I even stopped at a truck stop, just tilted over and took a nap. Well, this is set up, you can tell, but so that was one of the major things that my DBS helped me with, in addition to some tremors and a lot of stiffness. My speech was going downhill, and also my executive functioning was going, I couldn't follow a recipe or balance my checkbook. It was a big difference after my surgery and the 3 tunings that I had. And I've obviously regained my voice, and I even remember things when my husband doesn't remember them now. So it's pretty good. Kayaking is a big thing for me. I really enjoy it. It's hard for me to get in and out of this kayak now. So I have another one that's a ride on top. Pacific Northwest has beautiful lakes and smooth rivers. Primarily, we kayak out on the Columbia River, which is 7 miles from my house. Here's a picture of my book. I do have a blog, but I still haven't got it all in order. And so if you want to email me, if you like an autographed book, I will send you one. And I think with shipping, it's $22. So about a year after I published my book, which was in the pandemic time, the gal that helped me edit it, I self-published the book, by the way, but I had some help from an editing company, and their lead person called me and she said, Carol, would you like to narrate your book? And I said, golly, I have Parkinson's. I can't even read a paragraph, much less a whole book out. And she said that she was going out on maternity leave and she'd be back in 3 months. And at that time, she expected me to have my voice in shape. Well, I'm a trained speech pathologist. I worked primarily in the schools, but I knew what I needed to do with my voice, and I got on it just to see if I could regain some really nice quality to my voice. So my poor husband, I was reading out loud to him. I was doing drills to keep my phonation going, lip drills because I was catching my lips on a lot of words and making funny words out of words that shouldn't have been funny. So she called me after 3 months and she said, open any page and read. So I read for her and she said, I'm booking you in the studio. So I got to narrate my own book, and that's just an awesome feeling, you guys, to know that I could create something from the beginning to the end. And so it's available out there wherever you get your audiobooks. You can get it on Amazon, yes, or Audible, or any place where it sells Audible books. I don't mean to be making a commercial here, but just in case you like it. This is some friends that play bluegrass music with me, and we were the socially distant players during the pandemic. And just is a fun crowd of people that join in and play this bluegrass music. During the pandemic, I developed a obsession with drawing these Zen arts and Zen doodles. And I just drew and drew and drew. I filled 4 books full of the pictures I drew. And it's just wild. So I'm trying to draw real things now, but I think these little figures are really great. And it really is very calming to me. And sometimes I'll take a book to wherever I'm going and I'll just draw if I have to sit in a meeting or something that is worrisome to me or causes me anxiety. So I'm not going to read this poem here because I want to read to you my I Am poem. Many of you are familiar with the I Am poems, and maybe you've done them as part of Patrick's group, I'm not sure. But it pretty much describes me as a younger person and kind of where I'd like to think that I'm going to be again someday. Poetry it's become a part of my life. I am part of a poetry group sponsored by the Davis Finney Foundation. And we, on occasion, have given some great presentations that have been well attended. So that's really neat. I didn't ever think I could write a poem. So this is my I Am poem. I am fast. I am speed. I am from fields, tracks, dirt roads, the river, blue diamond slopes, and a trim white house with a red fence. I am from Annie over, hide and seek, freezing statues and sugar beets. I am from a 450 horsepower Ford engine and a powerful running quarter horse named Shauna. And now I wonder if I hadn't crashed, would I have Parkinson's? I am quick. I get there fast. I am from Converse, Adidas, Nike, spikes and cleats, court shoes and cowboy boots, ski boots and a powder blue Schwinn 10 speed and Rosigal snow skis. I am from Mabel and Joseph, Joseph and Sophia, Mary and Joe, Loretta and Pappy, and Wilbur. I am from the riders who never got bucked off. I am from the team that won. And we sing, shower the people you love with love. And we sing, bye, bye, Miss American Pie. And I am from the town they liked so much, they named it twice, Walla Walla. The wheat grew slow, the grapes ferment, yet I am fast. I like to speed. I am from beer on tap and red table wine. I understand now that if I want to play with the boys, they are not going to treat me like a girl. And I experience how they block and tackle, and if they catch me, I will break their hearts. I am fast. I am speed. I am Carol. The end. All right, let's see what I've got next up here to tell you about. Okay.
This is harder than I thought. Oh my God, I am not doing very well at all. Okay, one of them. So everybody should have one of these, and when they're feeling apathetic or depressed, just go outside and shoot baskets.
It's true. I can't go out in that garage and shoot baskets and still feel bad. Some things that are going to come up in my life. I have this service dog in training. His name is Leroy. He is 14 months old and he is a yellow Labrador, grown and raised here in Oregon. So he is working with Joy of Living support dogs out of Salem, Oregon, and I will have him in my possession probably late September, and I'll be going through a 2-week training with him on the campus and all around the community to make sure that we can get through any issue that might come up with transporting around, getting around. And then we will have a test and a graduation. What's really cool about these dogs is they are raised at, well, they're born wherever they're placed. And then they are raised, there's 4 correctional institutes in Oregon where they go to be socialized and start their training. And one of the places is very near me, it's about 25 miles away. And Leroy has been there a couple of rotations. They go every week and change the dogs out. So Leroy might be there one week, he might be at the arcade the next week, or he might be at the symphony the next week. But I'm just really pleased to watch and see how many different situations they're providing for him so that he will be ready and steady and for me when I meet up with him in late September. So I'd like to talk to you guys a little bit about adventures. And this last year, in fact, exactly a year ago, we took off for Europe on a 67-day adventure. And, oops, to get something here. In the middle of our adventure, we went on a Viking cruise. Something I'd never done. I've never been on a cruise before. So from looking at those pictures of all the crazy things I've done, you can tell that I love adventure. And I'm wondering if any of you guys have been on an adventure lately. You don't have to answer now. Maybe you can tell me about it later. I know this, you've been on new adventures because I know that every time you go to see a new doctor, you see new people, you go to new locations, you get in a new MRI, CAT scan. Those are all adventures. We also have adversities. We have adversities with our Parkinson's and we have adversities outside of our Parkinson's. And we have burdens. We carry a lot of burdens. We don't choose these adversities that come to us with our Parkinson's. Who would? But we can choose adventure. As my symptoms have advanced, my life is starting to be described more, maybe some apathy. My husband's favorite apathy that I have, the one he teases me about a lot, is my food apathy. I just want to eat. I don't care what I eat. And when he asks me, it comes into almost like, well, I'm not going to cook for you because you don't care about what I'm making. Well, of course I care about what he's making, but it's just not, not really important to me what I eat. So that's my food apathy. My adventures in Parkinson's have been the most challenging of my life. This big adventure last spring, where we were in Europe for 67 days and 12 countries, we didn't plan it. We had the flight in to Europe and the flight out, and we knew we had to be to pick up our ship for the river cruise. But other than that, we kind of came and went as we wished. We saw many friends and made many new friends. But we might not have known where we were going to be on the next day. We might not have known what we were going to eat for dinner. And there were cobblestones and train platforms and stairs and more stairs. Mind the Gap is written on many train platforms because the platform doesn't always match up to where the train is. So when you get off, you want to watch where you're going so that you don't slide down or get caught underneath the door of the train. Heaven forbid. Mind the Gap was something that Charlie said to me every day, and sometimes many times a day, where I needed to be paying attention to where I was going. But it became something different for me, that phrase, mind the gap. There was a gap between here where I was and there where I could go. When we mind the gap, we have to think about everything that could be blocking us from getting a smooth, getting off smoothly off the train that's going by. Okay. I knew that someday I could lose everything. I could lose all my facilities, except they couldn't take away my attitude. Parkinson's can't take away my attitude. I try to stay really pretty positive. Right now, I'm having trouble walking, and it's just driving me nuts. And I'm not getting on the bike. And so my exercise has really gone downhill, and it makes a huge impact on my ability to stay positive. But it's really important for me to be a positive person. And I'm not going to say to somebody, here, stick the smile on your face and act like you're feeling great. No, I'm not going to do that. And it's hard to have any positive comments when we live in such a terrible disease. But by my example, and hopefully people will be inspired by some of the things I've done and shown that it is possible to do these things, that somebody will be motivated to get out into the world and to see and experience all the wonderful things that are there. So choosing a positive attitude is the only way for me to deal with this terrible disease. And how do you get started? How do you get started on having a better attitude? How do you get started on these adventures? Well, start one step at a time. That's what I did when I got out of my chair and walked out the door to the mailbox. Now, some people thought I was really crazy on this last trip. Why would a 65-year-old woman entering the advanced stages of Parkinson's want to choose such a trip? I could have easily stayed on the riverboat. My goodness, those are lovely things. Or taken bus tours or whatever. But we chose to use public transportation and just really wanted to live the life and meet the people. It's one heck of an adventure. And to get to Europe, you have to sit 12 to 15 hours on a plane. Who wants to do that when you're having dyskinesias? Well, riding on the plane for 12 hours might have been difficult, but it gave me 67 days of adventure. And to me, I could manage getting through that plane ride, even though it was rough and uncomfortable, but I sure had a good time when I got on the other side. While we were on the trip, sometimes I hurt so bad that I just had to stop walking and put my forehead against a wall or something just to stabilize myself. And my husband could lose sight of me. We might get separated in a crowd or something like that. And I was frustrated with how slow I moved and how little I could carry to help him out. But then I could get up and go, and not very fast, but we sure covered a lot of country. There, in 67 days of this trip, there was only one thing that I chose not to do because of my abilities. And that was in Venice at St. Mark's Cathedral. There was a narrow stairway that didn't, it was really rough rocks. It wasn't really a stairway. It looked like maybe something that the builders had used to climb up while they were working on the church. And I just looked at that and I said, nah, not today. That's the only one I avoided during that whole time. There's having a physical challenge gave me some reason to get back at people, I guess. I had this one lady who said, Carol, you know, there's elevators here for people like you. And I just went, whoa, no, if I rode that elevator, I wouldn't get to slow you down on the stairs. She didn't talk to me after that. So what I'm going to leave you guys with today, and I'll answer your questions, whatever you have to ask me, is to explore the idea of life as an adventure. Start small, like just stepping outside your door and considering what an adventure that is, all the things you have to do. And no matter how small your adventure is, it's a huge leap towards keeping Parkinson's out of your mind and out of your heart. So there's Patrick, and I will
Here we go. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. I see some nods. Okay. I'm going to leave. Well, I guess I'll spotlight myself back for now. But I encourage you all to try to watch in gallery view because you can see everybody. It adds to the communal experience. Carol, that was really, I think, a couple things: beautiful, courageous, metaphoric, and I see some nodding heads here. I'm going to open it up to comments or questions in a moment. But you know, to me, I love the mind the gap photo. There were so many, and I love your concept of the adventure. We had a motivational speaker with Parkinson's, John Bauman, who met with us early on when we started doing these, and he had something similar. He encouraged us all to celebrate the victories and to look towards everything, you know, treat everything sort of as an adventure or of an accomplishment, a victory, even if it's just getting out of bed in the morning. And so there were, you know, one of the things that I talk about that continues to reveal itself to us is that, you know, we meet at similar crossroads often from different disciplines, from different paths. And I think that you and John had a similar way of looking at life and trying to remain positive despite. And I also thought your description, I think it was your trip to Europe where you knew you could get there and you knew you had to leave and you had nothing planned between it. Kind of like life, you know, we're born, we have some objectives, you know, you want to maybe get to college or maybe you don't want to get to college. You know, you're probably going to have a job unless, you know, you're born with a golden spoon, in which case I don't want to hear from you. No, but, you know, it was, your presentation was, I thought, analogous and metaphor for life and poetic for sure. And I know it takes courage to get out there and to talk about yourself and to share your experience in the hope that the stuff that you've learned and you're continuing to learn and reconcile with maybe help someone else along the way. And, you know, you're still on your journey too, right? So, so anyway, I wanted to really thank you for, you know, sharing your presentation, and I want to open it up to my crew here, to our crew, to see if anybody has a comment or a question. If you want to raise your hand, that's fine too, or just reach for your mute and come off. Okay, Carol. Of course, Carol. Yeah, what we got?
Hi, thank you so much. That was so inspiring to hear that, because I just found it fascinating. And I just have a question. You were saying you were doing all this doodling.
Mhm.
Did you make the doodles? Or you just colored them in? And if so, did you have problems with your handwriting?
My handwriting is terrible. I can't write, I could write maybe half a sentence and then it drifts off. It's pretty illegible. And that's what's really surprising, that I can do those intricate little details on those drawings and still can't write.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah, the other thing that I thought very analogous or was your journey with the bikes. You found the bike, and then you had to try your son's bike, and then you had to go to the tricycle bike, and very similar to the bumps in the road, so to speak. I don't know, and having to go ahead.
It's the way I get to do what I like, even though I can't do it in the way necessarily that I would want to, but I'm still getting the same benefit, getting outside, enjoying myself. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
Sure. Carol, you did a great job. I know some of this stuff already because I know Carol. And in fact, she mailed me a couple of those doodles to color in. They're very nice. Good job. Great job.
Thank you.
I read your book too. That's great.
Okay, we got iPad 2, I think is that, and Ruth, then I'll come to you. iPad 2, you need to take yourself off mute.
I wondered, where do you look for those tricycles? What's the brand? What's the brand? Or
they're called recumbent tricycles.
Okay, recumbent, yes.
Yeah, and there are two types. There's a type that's called a tadpole, and it has, I hope I don't get these mixed up. It has two wheels in the front and one in the back. And then there's the kind that has one wheel in the front and two in the back. Yeah. And the one with the two wheels in the front is more stable, in my opinion, and it's more for touring around and covering some distance. The one with the wheels in the back is, in my opinion, more for riding around town, doing little errands, things like that aren't so aggressive.
Well, the kids have taken my two-wheel bike away from me. So when you talked about the trike, I thought I might look into that.
It was a wonderful solution for my need for riding and for speed. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay, thank you for that. These kids that take stuff away from us. Gosh. All right. Ruth, did you have a comment? I see your hand is raised.
Yes, I do. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Carol, thank you for your incredible honesty. It's really very touching, and I appreciate it. What I saw and what I think you showed us is a number of feats, possibly all physical feats: the bike, the Compostela journey, the walks, the photos that documented what you had done physically, that you may regard as victories. Now, how much, it's almost as though you're very competitive with yourself, pushing yourself along to be able to do things that are even beyond normal people's aspirations. How much of that is due to your overcoming or compensating for Parkinson's? How much of that is due to your own character and personality?
Well, that's a good question. I didn't know what to do with myself when I was diagnosed with Parkinson's. I had a really busy job, being a speech pathologist in a rural Eastern Oregon. There's kind of a sparsity of them, and I was bumped up into the administration, and I had 50 people to supervise that were all over the crazy place. And so I really, really worked hard. I became kind of a workaholic, I guess. And then I got diagnosed with Parkinson's, and anxiety was a big issue for me. When I was on the first walk, I had, you might call it a religious experience, but God talked to me and said, Carol, you need to do something. And I said, well, what? What do I need to do, God? And God said, do something good. Something good? Like what? And so the rest of that walk, I spent just listening to people and seeing what kinds of things were going on in their lives. And it just was an amazing journey of learning about people. So since then, these things have just fallen in my lap. The book, I'm not an author. I never wrote anything other than diagnostic reports for my patients, my clients, my little kids, students. And so to learn to write was pretty amazing too. So I don't know if I answered your question, Ruth, but.
Well, I mean, what I'm hearing is a person who's determined and committed to doing things even beyond the normal.
Yeah.
And to excellence, to being excellent, if not superlative. Is that how you define yourself, or is that something that came in after the Parkinson's?
I have a good work ethic. I know that. My parents had a mom and pop hamburger place, and we grew up working in it, and we worked, all the other kids that were hired had to work just their hours, but all of us kids in my family, there's 5 kids, and we were expected to fill in for other people's shifts and stay till the very end and all those kinds of things. And so I developed a good work ethic.
Well, actually what it kind of occurs to me as well is, you look at these photos and you talk about your journey and you look at those hikes and you look at you coming down the hill with a shovel or whatever the heck that was to slow your descent. And, what we didn't see, and I'm not saying it wasn't there, was a fear of failure, and that fear might have been there anyway, but you did all this stuff despite there maybe being, what happens if I fall? What happens if I twist my ankle? What happens if I get halfway through this and can't finish it? I think your story really speaks to the fact that you took a chance and you put yourself out there on the mountain, literally.
I got it in here.
And let me mute here. Yeah, I think that you didn't mention that. You might want to add it. It comes really clear. I think it's a beautiful part of your story is that, what does that say? What is the subhead? Go ahead and read it. There's their book.
I have to.
Well, anyway, I think that when a diagnosis of Parkinson's is made, it affects everybody differently. And I don't have Parkinson's, so I'm just kind of relating what I've observed. And I think there's a great deal to admire and learn from, your approach to life. And almost as if, you talked a little bit about your life before that diagnosis, and you had horses and you had fishing and boating in creeks, but it's almost as if that diagnosis has prompted you to think about life in a little different way. And I hope that's not presumptuous of me to say. It's just kind of an observation I've noticed, and your courage really comes through. So, anybody else? And it's interesting because I immediately thought of Anne, our friend Anne, who is an artist. I think she's sitting there working on her quilt right now. There's so much poetry, there's so much art in this community, and much of it has either been altered by a diagnosis, inspired by a diagnosis, started because of a diagnosis. And you see that all the time. So yes, Patrice, did you have something?
Yeah, I was just going to say that you can tell by the type of career she chose, though, too, that she's a person helper.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
It's like
passionate in the first place. Takes a master's degree to be able to be a speech therapist. It's not easy.
Yeah. You know, my mom, she was not a speech therapist, but she developed the nickname of being the chronic provider because she just was so trying to give me carrots and everything else to, it was chronic. She was always trying to doing what mothers do, I guess. Sue Ann, did you have a comment or do you?
Yes, I want to
Okay.
know, Carol, when were you diagnosed?
When were you diagnosed?
2008. And of course, like everyone, I've had symptoms prior to that.
Okay.
And then
Thank you.
2016 was the DBS.
Yes. Uh-huh.
And I take it it's something that you're glad you did, despite
Yes.
the baseball analogy from your husband.
Yes. As I said before, I was starting to slip for whatever reason. My medications weren't working for me, and the doctor said it was just the right time. And the last group I was speaking with, they called me the poster child of DBS because I had a really positive, good experience. And so.
Well, I'm glad for that.
Yeah.
BJ's raising her hand. BJ is a candidate. I don't know what I'm going to go ahead, BJ.
Yeah, when you had a DBS, how long did it take for you to get sort of in the groove with the machines and all that kind, whatever they have to do so that you're sort of as good as you can get?
That's the process over time, and it's different for everybody. During the first tuning, I saw a significant change. I couldn't put my arm back, cock my arm back to throw a ball. And I was a big softball player. And I also, had dogs that I threw the ball for and whatever. So that was an immediate thing that I could throw the ball. I could walk better. I could move my feet so I could drive my car. Just lots of changes that were immediate. And then as time progressed, there were some subtle changes that occurred. I could follow a recipe again. It just is interesting. I found a part here in the book, if you'd like me to read, just what Patrick was talking about. It almost describes me for word. My eyes started around the pilgrim's office. It was busy, but not crowded with people at this time. Regardless, I felt the walls closing in around me. I started to hyperventilate and found a place to sit on a bench against the wall. I was very unprepared for this trip. The unknown had me panicked. The other hikers registering at the desk looked so fit in their bright hiking clothes. My thoughts turned to my Parkinson's, my braced ankle, the pain I felt when I struggled to get my pack off my back. I was overwhelmed with the struggle. In fact, tears started falling and my body started heaving and shaking as I let out the sobs. Thoughts of self-doubt filled my head. What am I doing here? I have a stupid disease and it's not going away. These people look so fit and ready to go, and I didn't prepare enough. I know I won't make it. The sobbing American woman was drawing attention to herself on a day that should have been filled with joy and fun and excitement. Charlie saw me and he took on, and the look on his face was not one of a patient, doting husband. He rolled his eyes and sighed. Charlie just wanted to get going. He always just wanted to get going. Yet even in my early years of Parkinson's disease, called PD by those in the community, he had learned what to do. He had to distract me. And the story goes on about how he had to buy me some ice cream, and a little bit further, he said we need to take a nap. How he got me going on. Yeah.
Well, he absolutely sounds like a treasure of a partner, for sure.
Yeah.
So any other last closing remarks here? Otherwise, yeah, VJ, go ahead.
Can I just follow up on the DBS question?
Yeah, of course.
What was the symptom that was most bothersome to you before DBS?
Good question.
Yeah, that is. Well, my speech, especially being a speech pathologist, like now I'm just like in one, oh, I'm saying all these ums and stuff, it's just part of my Parkinson, so I got to live with it. But I asked my sister, I said, when I talked, what happened? She goes, sometimes you'd open your mouth and no words would come out. Or sometimes these words would come out all jumbled up. Sometimes you'd say the wrong word, and sometimes you stuttered on words. And so that was very important for me to get that straightened around. There was no promise to me with the placement that I was going to have good speech or bad speech afterwards, as well as cognitive skills. They didn't say that it was going to improve my cognitive skills or I was going to lose them. So no promises were made. And I just went for it for what I could get, which was mobility.
Thanks, I appreciate that.
Yeah, so we've had, fortunately, the benefit of some courageous people that have been with us since the beginning, that we started this during COVID, that have gone through DBS. And I think pretty much universally, it's been, thankfully, a good and positive experience for everybody. And VJ has been with us. She's a true champion and a huge help to me for these classes. And she's gone through the stages of getting approved, and it looks like she's going to go through with it. So
yeah, it's been approved, but no date has been set.
All right. Well, congratulations. That's a big part of it, is to get it approved. And
it was only 11 months.
That's
yeah,
great.
that's all.
and as I said, I don't have a date set yet. They're trying to get the neurosurgeon that does it more support people, so he can do it more than once a week. But right now he can only do it once a week.
Okay.
Yeah,
So if you know any anesthesiologists or nurses who just want to pop over to URMC in Rochester, New York.
Yeah.
One thing that I tell people is that you can expect you're going to be different after the DBS. We don't know what or how much, but you will be different. So you can look forward to that. There'll be something changed.
Yeah.
Yeah, and that's what, the same thing they said. They make no promises. He told me where he thought, he had the MRI, and he told me where he thought the best places were, and he was already thinking about stuff. So hopefully they can get rid of one or the other of my issues.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you so much, Carol, for this inspiring discussion, and thank you to all of the SmartXPD community who's joined us today. Remember, once this presentation is uploaded, we'll be sending a shareable link, and in the description section below the video, we'll put Carol's contact information again as well. If you enjoy SmartXPD's presentations, please consider making a contribution so that we can continue. You'll find easy options to do so in your emails. If you're watching this on YouTube and you're signed in, you'll find a thanks button to contribute as well. Thank you again, Carol, and thank you, everyone. Watch your emails for your exercise class schedule and upcoming presentations. Thanks, everybody. Thank you.